Welcome, welcome. This is G. You are watching Allastrology. It is the April new moon. April new moon happens on the 17th, and we're going to take a look. There it is, April 17th, and the time for the new moon is 6:50 a.m., and that's in my time zone. That's Central time zone, so adjust for where you live, and we give you the time because with the new moon, it's a new beginning. And if you focus on things like that, then you become the creator of your life, the manifester. You're using the the knowledge of the stars and the planets, and you're working with that divine energy to be like, hey, this is a new cycle. Let's do this. And that is kind of the spirit of this energy. That is the spirit. This is a new moon, and Mars is the ruler. So it's a new moon in Aries. And Mars's energy, Aries energy says, it's ready. This is that soldier who's waiting for the call, right? They're always in that mode. They're ready to fight. They're ready to rumble. They're ready to take action when necessary. That's Aries energy. It's an interesting time in that Mercury is at 3 degrees in Aries, Mars at 5 degrees in Aries, and Saturn is sitting there at 7 degrees in Aries. So these are all conjunct for this new moon, and it matters. It all plays a role, even Neptune. This is all part of this new beginning. The sun and the moon at 27 degrees in Aries. And you focus on the Aries energy in your chart and you find 27 degrees. Now, this new moon has a huge orb. Well, I shouldn't say huge, but it's a pretty big orb because we have an object right there, Chiron at 26, and we have Eris at 25. So technically, they're all part of this. Yeah. And that means that this new moon is a very strong trine to the galactic center, Jupiter energy. So we can think justice, foreign lands, foreign countries, courtrooms and judges, and the need for truth. But freedom is a big deal with Aries and with Sagittarius energy. They're both very big on freedom. And the 27 degrees talks about news. What are we hearing about? What are we talking about? So this is news and information about freedom, about our body, about our appearance, but it's also about fight and fighting because we have so much in Aries. I mean, look at the stellium. Look at that. Normally, the rule of thumb is when you have this much, 5 planets or more, 5 objects or more in a sign, it takes on a spiritual role. It takes on a higher vibration. So let's pray that that's what's going on here. That there's a higher vibration going on, that this is more, and the Aries can take a spiritual role, which is kind of what I'm like praying for. And when I say spiritual role, it's more of a, you know, let's look at the big picture. Let's, not be so rash and so silly. It's time to have very serious conversations and talks. And it has to involve what is our long term goal anyway? Like, why did we begin this crap? How did we get here? And, this is all part of it because Mars is conjunct Saturn and it's conjunct Mercury. Mars connects Mercury. So it's talking and communication, right? Networking. We're having a conversation. We're using words. This is important. And it's at the 3 degree, so that's good. This is at 5 degrees, but this is the body. This is military. This is soldiers. This is fighting. Passionate energy. It's very impatient in Aries, though. It just is because it's Mars and Aries, and Mars rules it. And wants to take action. Usually thinking is absolutely last. But thankfully, Mercury's close enough. Now, the trick here is that it's close enough, but it's still very close to Neptune. It's a degree away. So this can be confusing communications, even tricky words, right? And it might not even be purposefully confusing. It just might be somebody says something and wow, I thought what you said, I took it to mean this. I mean, I know I've had that conversation with a lot of people. Like, seriously, in the last few months, I should say the last 2 weeks, somebody could say something, have it written down, and I'm like, oh, I thought this meant this. And it really, in reality, they were like, no, I meant this. And it was like, holy shit. The semantics of things, right? So there can be deception, but the bottom line is confusing communications. Now, this is a Mercury degree 27. This is a Mercury degree, which is why we're looking at Mercury because it's important and it's part of what Mars is going to do. And that 27 degrees says, let's talk about it. This is neighbors, coworkers, siblings. This is pure energy, P-E-E-R, your peers. So near peer type of stuff, possibly, because God knows the United States must think whatever about who their near peers are. But with all that aside, we have the Chiron, which is wounds of my body, my right to exist and me feeling as though my autonomy and my freedoms are threatened, and a big value placed on that at that 26 degree. So this is important, but there's some fired up energy. So this can also not just be about what's going on over there, but also, of course, about what's going on over here and basically all over the place in terms of abuse of children and youngsters. Because after all, Aries is the youngster of the zodiac. We'll be hearing about it. We'll be talking about it. This will be the topic. A lot of strong Aries energy, and it will be very serious. What actions we take and understanding the repercussions, the consequences, the down the line consequences with Saturn. Thank God Saturn's part of this to say, hey, listen. And remember, Mars will take orders from Saturn. So it's good, right? We got Saturn who's talking about, well, partnerships. And let's figure a way out to come to the table, to draw up a contract, to find an agreement, yeah, let's compromise. Like this is that degree for Saturn. So now, in our world, in our lives, in our micro life, what does it mean? It means the Aries energy focused on self, focused on, well, what about me? And a new beginning. So it's a new beginning for self within partnerships. It's this energy of I cannot extinguish myself. I can't sacrifice myself. That's important because that's part of this conversation. This is me finding words and saying, but this is what I need. So you tell me what you need. You tell me what's important to you because I'm trying to compromise, but we have to hash it out. Like we got to have everybody at the table and we have to be communicating. There has to be clear communications, which this can support that a little bit. As this day passes and the following days, this Mercury will get closer to Mars and they'll all meet up at 7 degrees. I talk about that a little bit more in the other video. So what I'm saying is whatever this conversation is, whatever you're talking about in terms of what you need, what you're passionate about, what you want to start, what sort of a new beginning, what you want to lead or initiate, clear communication is going to be important, but understand this is like the kickoff point, but it's still going to need tweaking as we go along. That's going to be key to remember for this energy because of all of the stuff we've just talked about in Aries. Because Aries tends to be very impatient and impulsive. So we know with the impatience, the beauty of Saturn says, let's slow down. Let's be certain about this. Let's be clear. So I'm actually very grateful that Saturn is present because the Mars and the Aries are really reactionary by nature. But Saturn isn't. Saturn says, Oh, I can see where this is going. Let's think this through. Let's think of all the options and choices. Mercury, all the options and choices. And let's discuss this and let's see, let's do the pros and the cons. And let's definitely consider the long term and see what the best option is. All right. So, in terms of freedoms and liberty and justice, this is strong energy. There's support for that here, with hearing about truth and a need for truth and a need for connecting higher wisdom and knowledge. And so Jupiter supports this new moon. It's at 27, right? So if you've got something in Leo energy, 26, 27, 28, 29 degrees, that creates a huge, grand, very fired up fire trine, grand fire trine, which is all about action and initiations and startups and starting and not sitting still. It's busy energy. It's literally lighting the match, which is so funny. Right before I started press the record button, I got a strong visual. And it was of me grabbing my box of matches and lighting it and like having the camera just, like just do it because that's literally a nice visual. It's a literal visual for this energy. And what happens with the match? You light it, and what happens? Well, it's only going to last as long as the stick lasts, right? Or as long as the wick is. And if you don't even hold it the right way, it'll burn out. This is a match that's on the thick side. It's one of those kitchen matches. So it's not a paper one that burns down really fast. So if you don't hold it properly, the flame may not even make it all the way up the matchstick. You see that? So I'm tweaking it so that it'll get bigger and travel and last longer. I'm literally tilting it. Holy shit, you hear that? Okay, I'm about to burn my fingers off. So with that said, that's really kind of similar. It's really kind of similar energy to this start because it's using the mind, but it's fast. It's Mercury, mind degree, and it's connected to taking action. It's a fast mind, and it's going to say to the body, let's go, let's do this. So we're just being cautious and because of the Neptune, and also because there's a lot of Jupiter support, which Jupiter tends to be like whoosh. It tends to go really big. Okay. So we want to just keep that in mind for the personal, private stuff, right? And the opposition, of course, is Libra, partnerships. So that's important because Saturn is already talking about partnerships. So let's make a deal, personal and professional. What I want to do moving forward. Maybe you're not literally talking to somebody about a one-on-one relationship, maybe it's something like my example. I have two housemates. So if there's certain things I want to do or certain things they want to do, and we're all sharing a certain space, example, this room, well, we kind of work things out. So and so gets it on this day, the other one gets it on this day or at this time or whatever. There's there's a certain amount of compromise you just have to have, and communication, clear communication has to be had. And if it's not, well, then things go crazy. But we just can't be super impulsive because there will be a tendency to be overconfident, over courageous, and super impulsive with the sweet trine from the galactic center. Okay. So just remember this kind of energy, which is strong, independent energy, like fiercely fiery, independent pioneer energy. Like, well, I'm doing it, damn it. You're too slow. I can't wait for you. It's strong for that. And the mind will follow right through and the body will follow the mind. So maybe you put things down on paper, but with this new beginning, just understand you have to have a little bit of patience to see how things evolve.